Right, here we go. We're back live again. Had a little bit of a problem with the software that I'm using, but all back and up and running, so sorry about that. But okay, Andy Lawrence, they've just started race 1 and he's up and running already, and he's managed to gap a little bit of a gap between himself and Stephen Kenwood. Stephen Kenwood chasing in the big Maserati with Steve Lagalle in third place, and he's got a gaggle of cars right behind him, as you can see. You can see the mist and spray off the back. Right behind him it's Alex Vollmer and Elizabeth Cron back there in 5th place. Right, so coming down through the hairpin and back onto the start-finish line. That's Goddard's, and we have our first lap done and dusted. And Andy Lawrence on his way already in the Ginetta. Stephen Kenwood hanging on to 2nd place in the wailing Maserati, but behind him it's Steve Lagalle, Alex Vollmer right behind him in a Porsche, and Elizabeth Cron now hanging on to her 5th place. Right behind her it's JP Miranda, who's chasing in the BMW M4 with Pete Stepani arriving right there in the Porsche GT4, and he's trying to get through as quickly as he can as well. Go on board to JP Miranda now, looking forward. Who is on the inside, is trying to send one up the inside of Elizabeth. She just hammers the door closed, and yeah, they come down the long back straight now. Through the chicane they go, and JP Miranda taking all different lines down into the hairpin to try and get into Elizabeth's head, and she's clearly watching the mirrors because she misses the apex there. Looking behind, you can see the rest of the field coming through. It's Stepani right there in the GT4, and he's now going around the outside of JP Miranda. Runs a little bit deep but manages to keep it on the black stuff. David Yu not too far back. There he is in his BMW, and behind him it's Joe Lawrence in the Mercedes. But right at the moment we're going to just keep our eyes on this close dice between Pete Stepani, JP and Elizabeth Cron. Although this has turned into a 5-car battle now, because David Yu is right there in his BMW and he's wanting to get by. And you can see the whole field as they come up through the Schwantz curve up into McLean's now. A little bit of an off camber, you've got to tiptoe through there, otherwise you get a whole big drift going on. Elizabeth doing really well in the McLaren, hanging on to her position. Andy Lawrence just driving away, is 4.3 seconds clear of Steve Kenwood. So he's very comfortable in that Ginetta. Pete Stepani almost running a little bit deep there. JP Miranda now having a look again. almost got the BMW up the inside of Elizabeth's McLaren. They run single file through the hairpin onto the start-finish line. Oh, this is a huge battle here. All 5 cars now looking for positions. There at the back we see Matthew Hudson, David Hugh in his McLaren, and he's almost sending one up the inside of Joe Lawrence's Mercedes. He also follows him as they start to head back down now through the Craner curves. Going to keep our eyes peeled on this bunch as they run through Starkey's Bridge, Schwantz curve, back up to McLean's. "17 minutes left of this 25-minute race, so these drivers really don't have much time to kind of take their time. They're going to try and make positions up. They need to assess where the driver ahead is weaker, and then try and make an overtake stick for that position. Lawrence in the Mercedes coming very close. Oh, and Stoppani gets a huge tank slap on in that Porsche, and that allows both cars to come through, so he's had to let them go. Joe Lawrence, oh, and now he sends it up the inside. There's a little bit of contact there. It was very late braking by Pete Stoppani. No harm, no foul, and onwards they go back up to Goddard's, and they come through the final turn here onto the start-finish line. Joe Lawrence and David Yu actually scoring out of that, and he's bumped himself up into 7th place, with Pete Stoppani going backwards 2 positions. Andy Lawrence at the sharp end of the stick in the Ginetta. Tiptoes through Coppice, now hammering down the Starkey Straight towards Fogarty S's. And there in the background you can see the Steve Kenwood Maserati. It's basically Andy Lawrence's race to lose by making a mistake somewhere if he's going to make one. But he is very comfortable, and he's on his way, not having a problem here at all. JP still watching the back of Elizabeth Cron's McLaren as they come through the chicane. And behind that, Joe Lawrence right behind David Yu's BMW. We'll go on board with JP and see what he's looking at. See the mist coming off Elizabeth's McLaren as they come through the Craner curves. Now the old hairpin. Here's Starkey Bridge on the left. And JP going to have to try and find his way by here. Coming down the straight again to the chicane. Elizabeth running perfect racing lines. JP Miranda not able to find a way by. Does run up the centre of the track here as they come down to the hairpin, just to jeez, almost outbraked himself there. That's allowed the other BMW of David Yu to close in with Lawrence in the Mercedes. Pete Stoppani unfortunately has fallen well off the back of these four cars. Elizabeth almost runs a bit deep there, and everyone's closing up here.
We are at the halfway mark, still a long way to go.
Halfway through this 25-minute sprint. Or JP running a little wide there, and now David Yu's right behind him. Besides looking ahead at Miranda, he's also got to watch his mirrors because Lawrence is right behind him in the Mercedes. Matthew Hudson here back in 10th place in the Aston Martin. He's having a good clean race. Darren Cheng, he's running wide here in this Audi. Golf color schemed Audi R8, and that's allowed Ingmar Peterson to go past. So that demotes Darren Cheng down to 12th place. Wow, look at this. Back up here to this dice for 6th, 7th, 8th. Oh, and that's JP Miranda's made a big mistake. Let's go and look at that again. Into T1, he's just come in way too hot. He's outbraked himself completely and he runs off into the sand kitty litter. And that allows both Joe Lawrence and David Yu to go past. So JP goes from attacking the back of Elizabeth Cron in 6th all the way back to 8th position now. And I think Elizabeth can sigh a breath of relief right there. Pressure's been lifted. While this is happening, Steve Legale, here he is, and he's closing in the back onto the back of Stephen Kenwood. So Steve Legale definitely getting quicker, and Mr. Kenwood running very weird lines down into the hairpin just up ahead. So it's Steve versus Stephen at the moment. I don't know if Stephen Kenwood's having a problem with the car or with the tires, or if he's got something wrong, but Steve Legale was a good 4-5 seconds back in 3rd place, and he's right under the rear wing at the moment, and looking already for a way to get by. You can see the rain hasn't let up. It's still a constant drip. With Steve Kenwood running a little wide as they go through T1. He's going to be watching his mirrors intently. Yeah, we're watching off the back of Stephen Kenwood's Maserati. Steve Legale is right there, I tell you what. He's just waiting to jump on this. Gets a nice drive through there. Now heading to Coppice. Got to take your time, got to be patient. Oh, and he goes already. He's centered up the inside. They're side by side as they come through Coppice onto Starkey Straight. And I think Steve Legale is going to be enough ahead for the chicane. Stephen Kenwood brakes. He decides to back out of it through the chicane. It was a good clean pass right there by Stephen Legale. and go back and have a look at this. It was a great move, and position done, changed, overtakes happened, and here we see Stephen Kenwood backing out a little bit earlier, deciding just to follow Steve Legale through the chicane, and onwards they go. So that's a position change for second and third place right there. Andy Lawrence, with just over 7 minutes to go, he is a good couple of seconds up the road. You can see on the track map the highlighted triangle, the red triangle. That's the car we're on now, and he's 12 seconds up the road from Steve Legale. Let's go back and see how this dice is happening. Elizabeth Cron all on her own. She's managed to drop David Yu. Big gaps now happening, but 8th place JP Miranda, and he's, well, I heard a car in the sand or grass there. I heard something. It could have been Pete Stopani actually, but JP Miranda here closing back up on the back of Mr. Lawrence in the Mercedes. Nice to see a good mix and match of manufacturers out here in the GT4s. 8 manufacturers here today, including the single Audi R8 of Darren Ching at the back of the track, back of the field. This is definitely not over. These three, David Yu, Joe Lawrence and JP Miranda, this is still 4 points in position, with just on 5.5 minutes to go in this, the first sprint race of the day. Anybody outbrakes themselves or puts a wheel off on the grass, it's going to allow for a position change to happen sweetly. Stephen Kenwood still following around the Maserati. Wow, drifts it in. Full on drift style, that big V12 Maserati. Got such an awesome sound to it. Only race here for Alex Volmer in the Porsche, the Cayman Porsche. Comfortable in fourth, but there in the background you can see it's Elizabeth Cron in the Nacho Mama Motorsports McLaren GT4. And this dice happening still with David Yu, Joe Lawrence and JP Miranda. This is for 6th, 7th and 8th respectively. Pete Stopani in his Porsche, Cayman Porsche GT4, hanging on to 9th place, and Matthew Hudson here in 10th place in the Aston Martin. Ingemar Pedersen in his Cayman Porsche, and Darren Cheng in the Audi R8. Rounds out your top 12. Three and a half minutes to go. Track conditions tricky. Rain still coming down solidly, so it's definitely wet tires, but track temperature at 28 degrees. So it's still giving the drivers a bit of a challenge to get the correct pressures on their tires. Joe Lawrence running a little deep. keeping the car on the black stuff as he runs through McLean's. They come to Coppers. Oh, he's gone very wide there. They were super close to going off track, which would have given the position back to JP Miranda. Does need to be careful. Put a tyre wrong in these conditions or get too much of the red and white curbing and you're going to have a huge problem. So Lawrence in the big V8 GT4 Mercedes-Benz. It's in a BMW M4 GT4 sandwich right now. And this still not over with just on 2 minutes to go. And Joe runs super wide there. JP could have capitalized on that if he was closer. We're going to go on board with JP and see what he's looking at. You can still see the sprays coming off the wheels of that Mercedes. JP trying as hard as he can to hang on to the back and see if he can capitalize on a position. JP was comfortably up just now in 6th place, chasing down Elizabeth Cron. And he had a moment into T1, ran wide, and both cars came past him. So if you've just joined, welcome to Club 50. It's a live stream I'm doing for the community, running tonight on Donnington Park, the Setta Corsa Competizione. This is the GT4 series, round 1 of 7 rounds. My name's Alan Patterson. I'm located all the way down in sunny South Africa, in Cape Town. And I've just started racing with the community, but I thought I'll do the stream for everyone this evening. Right, so Andy Lawrence starts the final lap. Here he is. We're going to give him some extra coverage, considering he is 13 seconds up the road of the whole field. He's driven an exceptionally good race in the Ginetta. Also makes a really nice little sound. It's also a 6-cylinder. Not sure of the exact specs in the car, but great little sports car. To Coppers for the final time in this round. Remember, we got another race after this, another 25-minute sprint. Don't go anywhere. Oh, somebody's moved the tyre barrier from the chicane. Andy through the chicane nice and smooth. Right, through the Melbourne hairpin. And through Goddard's for the last time in this round. And then in the background I can see some happening racing going on. Well done to Mr. Lawrence. He comes over in first place. Steve Legale in his Aston Martin comes round in second. Right behind him is Stephen Kenwood in the Maserati. They come over for second and third. That's your top three. Alex Volmer in the Porsche Cayman. He comes in for fourth place, but let's see what's going on behind him. Oh, look at the BMWs. It's Miranda and JP trying to send one up the inside of David Yu. Oh, and they touch. Oh, and they touch twice. Little bit of a nudge and budge, and that position change. That was there we go. Race done and dusted there. Pete Stepani, he comes over for 8th place. Here comes Matthew Hudson in his Aston Martin. And Matthew getting a great 9th place for Hermit Sim Racing. Ingemar Peterson, all the way from Sweden in his Cayman Porsche GT4. and he comes over for 10th place with Darren Cheng. I don't know why Elizabeth is in the pits early. Something happened with she had a, oh no, she is in the pits. She was running well in 5th place, so I think she did finish, though she hasn't got the checkered flag. But anyway, we'll see. We'll catch up and find out what happened there. But good first round. There we go. Lawrence from Steve Legale, Kenwood, Alex Volmer in 4th, and Joe Lawrence in 5th place. Right, we're gonna have a quick little break. I'm gonna go and get a cold drink, and I will be back to bring you round number 2. So don't go anywhere. Right, we're back. Here we go. On the grid, Andy Lawrence. Looks like it's how they finished the first, maybe, I don't know. The grid. No, it's the same result. It's Pete Stepani in 8th, David Ching in 9th. So this is how they qualified in the first quali round. So it's same position start for both races, which is good enough. Andy Lawrence in pole position in the Ginetta. Down the grid, here we have Mr. Kenwood's Maserati with the Fanatec badging. Got Steve Legale in his Aston Martin. Then the Porsche of Alex Volmer. Here's Elizabeth Cron's McLaren. Next to her, it's JP Miranda in the first of the M4 GT4s. David Yu in his BMW M4 with Pete Stepani in his Porsche on the outside. The Audi of Darren Cheng. Matthew Hudson in his Aston Martin. Ingemar Peterson in his Cayman Porsche, and Joe Lawrence right at the back in his Mercedes-Benz. So that's the grid. Let's get ready. It's a short formation lap. As you can see, they're basically going to take the 2 hairpins and they'll be going straight away. So cars are starting with cold tires here, and that's certainly a challenge in the GT4s. No such luxuries as blanket warmers or tire warmers. As they come around the final turn, Mr. Lawrence already getting himself up and away, and off they go.
Green light. Go,
Green
go.
light, there we go. Andy Lawrence takes the Ginetta across into the racing line and through the first turn. Further back, they're side by side, especially with Elizabeth Cron. She's having a dice again with Alex Vollmer's Porsche, and they side by side as they come down the Craner curves. Behind them, it's Miranda and Yu. It's the 2 BMWs, the blue and yellow cars, and David Yu backs out of that one. Pete Stepani following close in the GT4 Porsche, the Cayman Porsche, and all the way back, Joe Lawrence almost runs into the back of Ingemar Pedersen's Porsche, and he had to lift and take evasive action. He's so much quicker right now. Desperately looking to try and get by. Oh, and Ingemar's had a huge moment there with the Porsche. He's heading to the barriers. He hits the barriers, does Ingemar Pedersen, bounces off of them and gets back on the track. So he's lost a position, or a position. But let's go back up ahead. It's David Yu in the BMW. Wow, and JP Miranda very close on the back end again of Elizabeth Cron's McLaren, who's hanging on this time to Alex Vollmer's Porsche. I think this time David Yu's going to he's going to take no prisoners. Might actually just gift that little rear tap back to JP Miranda and try and take the position away from him. Brakes hard as they all come through the final turn. That's the first lap done, and off we go. Another 25-minute sprint race. It's all looking good here. Matthew Hudson in the background, running a defensive line, and Joe Lawrence, he's going to have to work out how to get by this Aston Martin. Matthew, one of the nicest guys in the GT3, GT4 series. Always moves over and makes a gap for the oncoming cars, but tonight everyone's on the in the same field. Oh dear, and right up ahead there it's Darren Ching in the Audi R8. Just go and watch that, because we're going to watch that on replay. So here we see Darren Ching coming down the Craner curves, and he's going to have, it sounded like he short shifted there. He's going to get here to the old hairpin, and he's going to come around here. Oh, he's on the grass. He's hit the slippery stuff, and that turns the car around. And there goes Joe Lawrence and Matthew Hudson. So Darren Ching almost all the way to the back. In fact, he is all the way to the back. Ingemar Pedersen even goes by. So position done. But back up to this dice again, and it's Elizabeth Cron having to watch her mirrors with JP Miranda and David Yu right there. Come on, David, make it move. And he does. He sends one up the inside, does David, but doesn't get a good drive out of that final turn. Go on board with David as he looks ahead at JP Miranda. These two BMWs obviously very, very closely matched. Here we go, down the hill. This is a challenge even at the best of times, even in dry weather conditions through this complex. Oh, Elizabeth's gone wide. She's on the grass. Manages to hang on to the car and she's back on. So Elizabeth loses 2 positions as she ran wide past Starkey's bridge and managed to get the... Oh, and almost again has a big moment there. Tell you what, it's all happening. Pete Stepani. He's looking up ahead. He can see Elizabeth right there, so he knows she's made a mistake. But Pete gonna see if he can try and close in on that McLaren. Let's go back again to David Yu. Here he is. JP Miranda pulling out a little bit of a gap between himself and David Yu. Just under 20 minutes left. So good fun, good fast little sprint races. No time for pits, no pit requirements. Don't need to change tires, don't need to refuel. It's just start to finish, go flat out and let's see where we can finish. But it's all about keeping the tires and the black stuff in these conditions, because as we've seen already, few slides here and there, you can get a really bad tank slapper. It'll just spear the car off into the green stuff, and trust me, that artificial grass, the astroturf on the side of the track in certain areas and the painted curbs, they are slippery. So I've just heard someone in the sand. Yes, I have. It's Alex Vollmer. He ran wide. Let's go and watch that quickly. So Alex Vollmer is coming here through Schwann's Curve and McLean's in his Cayman Porsche. Tiptoeing through McLean's, now heading towards Coppice, and he's going to run wide here into the kitty litter. He does, he outbrakes himself completely. That's what we heard, and here come the BMWs. Right, back live again, and Alex Vollmer now is having to watch his mirrors. He's got JP Miranda right there and David Yu right there. Cannot afford to make a mistake. With evenly matched cars like this, and in these conditions, levels out the playing field completely. David running a little bit deep through T1, but keeps the car on the black stuff. Andy Lawrence, oh, and JP running wide there in the BMWs, allowing David to come through. David braking, he needs to get on it. Go, David. What are you putting your brakes on for, lad? That was your opportunity, man. Oh, he had a huge chance right there to get past JP Miranda, and he's backed himself out of it. Elizabeth closing in on the back of this dice, so she's going to want to try and get her position back. She was up there in 5th place, so she's not going to hold back. Let's see if David Yu can get a position here. Follows JP Miranda. I know we're kind of stuck on this dice, but this is the closest dice. Stephen Legale again closing in on the back of Steve Kenwood's Maserati. As it happened in race 1, it looks like it's going to happen in race 2. Andy Lawrence up ahead, you can see 2-3 seconds up the road in his Ginetta. Oh dear, and Alex Vollmer's run very wide here. Oh, we missed a whole thing. Elizabeth's come through, it's the BMWs. So let's go back a minute, we're going to watch this on replay. So we missed a whole thing, so we're on replay here. Alex Vollmer is up ahead. We know he runs wide through the final turn onto the start-finish line. But something happens here with JP Miranda and with David Yu into the final corner. Because coming out of T1 that we caught Alex Vollmer, we also saw Elizabeth having gone past both these BMWs. So it looks like it's going to be coming up to the final turn here. David Yu's going to probably get a good drive, try and do a send up the inside. What is it? He has. He's hit the back of JP and they've turned around. And Elizabeth inherits her position. Well, that was Dave putting on brakes again. That was a little bit of accidental contact. There we go. We're back live. And this has brought everybody closer together. We've got Pete Stopani also now on the back of these BMWs. And Pete's right here. Back live again, and Pete just sails up the inside past David Yu and is now looking, as we see, one of the incoming jets coming into the airport. Pete Stopani late on the brakes. JP also runs deep. Pete Stopani and JP side by side as they head up to the last turn. This is going to be interesting. JP, does he brake? He does. Oh, Dave, he almost runs into the Porsche. They both run wide. We're almost 2 cars abreast. And David Yu takes his position back. Let's stick with this bunch now as we head towards Redgate and start another lap. We're almost at the halfway point. And look who's arrived. It's Joe Lawrence in the Mercedes. Oh, and he just drives into the back of Pete's Porsche. Here we go, down the hill. It's JP Miranda from David Yu, from Pete Stopani, from Joe Lawrence. And sure, this is a close race. Elizabeth Cron back up into 5th place and on the tail of Alex Vollmer. But these guys, gee, it's all happening right here. Some fine shortcutting happening as we see Joe looking up the inside. Pete Stopani running defensive as they come to the hairpin. They enter the Melbourne hairpin and he holds his line perfectly. Joe has to follow him around. Gets a good drive coming out of the hairpin and almost gets up the side of the Porsche. But Pete Stopani asserts his position there and here we go. Right. Steve Legale is within a second on the back of Stephen Kenwood's Maserati. So just like race 1, he's closing in on the back of that big E12. You can see Andy Lawrence kind of managing his gap in this race. Not that far away this time. Possibly wanting to have a little bit more of a dice with these guys. David Yu, let's go back here. David Yu trying to hang on to the BMW of JP Miranda. There's been a couple of times where David's been a lot quicker and should have been easily up in 6th place. But these guys having a great dice. Joe Lawrence. Oh, someone's in the sand. We heard that. I think it was David Yu going through in his BMW. Caught a bit of the sand through the chicane there. And Joe Lawrence has got past Pete Stopani. So we missed that pass just now. And both the BMWs, you can see David Yu's watching the BMW of JP Miranda. It's target fixation, because if JP runs wide, so does David. So very interesting how that happens. You watch the car ahead of you, you kind of go where that car goes. It's a big mistake to make when you're racing in ACC, is to don't focus on the car you're chasing, but maintain your focus on your braking points and the racing line. And you'll easily pass the car that you're chasing. Seems my internet has got stable again. Unfortunately, the entire link dropped. We have a strange thing that happens in this country called load shedding. It's due to our singular energy service provider called Eskom, and they do not have enough capacity to supply the country with power, so they turn off whole parts of the country for 2 hours at a time. It's called load shedding. It's highly entertaining. So we are all forced to buy inverters and lithium battery packs to try and keep our homes and lights running. And I think I had a little bit of a surge or a burst that happened. The fiber link dropped and came back up, but I unfortunately lost the opening sequence and the start videos for the stream. So my apologies, but there we go. Comes with the territory when you live in deep dark Africa. Right. JP, running deep again. Now, David, now's your chance. Up the inside. Go, my man. Oh, and Joe Lawrence running super deep. Look at these two, side by side. JP not letting it happen, but David's ahead of him. Go, David. Round the outside. Keep the car on the track. And JP sends it round the inside and goes back in front. Guys are having a good dice, that's for sure. Ingemar Pedersen, he is looking at the back of Matthew Hudson's Aston Martin. So everyone's still wanting to, oh yeah, he's gone past Pete Stepani. So Pete Stepani not having a good time in his Porsche right now. He's dropped 2 or 3 positions. But this dice, this has been happening in both races. David, these guys are literally Velcro together. Super close racing going on. Hopefully whoever's watching the YouTube is enjoying the coverage. And thanks for joining. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any questions relating to either the game or the simulation. Come on, David, brake, man. Oh, he's got another chance there. JP Miranda outbrakes himself into the Melbourne hairpin almost every lap. So does he up here. All David's got to do is just brake early, turn in, turn, and go. And there we have it. Position done. David Hughes finally got himself past with 7.5 minutes left in this race. Now he's just got to take his normal racing line and not watch his mirrors. David Yu moves into 6th place. And let's see now if he can just keep a nice clean racing line. He'll be able to get away from JP Miranda and close in on the back of Elizabeth Cron just up ahead there in 5th place. This is round 1 of the GT4 series. Yeah, at Club 50. Oh, and David's run very wide there, and that's allowed JP to come right up the inside as they head down to the chicane. They're almost side by side. And there you see David runs a little deep and JP followed him almost right into the sand trap. He's not watching his braking points. Now he's got to be careful not to run in again into the back of David's BMW. Steve Legale as we catch up to second and third place again. As was the first race, he is right under the wing of Stephen Kenwood's Maserati. And I know they're probably talking to each other or chatting on the open channel. Club 50 guys, we all normally sit in one big open voice channel. And people are either saying thank you or go by on the left or whatever in the mixed class racing. But I think in this racing, it's every man and woman for themselves. Yes, David Yu definitely closing up. He's 1.2 seconds off the back of Elizabeth. So this is going to soon become a three-car race for 5th place. These two gents super closely matched because they're both in the same cars. They are very close on track in proximity as well. There you can see Andy Lawrence just going through the last turn, Goddard's, and he's about to start another lap. The two BMWs come through the chicane here, nose to tail. It's Topani coming through in his Porsche. Front of that car is looking a little bit worse for wear. I think the bonnet's possibly up slightly. Yeah, it doesn't look good. So I think Pete's had a moment somewhere and collided either with a barrier. That's possibly what contributed to him dropping 1 or 2 positions down. Steve Legale missing that apex a bit as he comes through McLean's. Just got to basically follow Stephen Kenwood. The Audi, I can hear it. Oh, it's Darren Chung. Let's go back 30 seconds. He's had a moment into the final turn. Joe Lawrence tiptoeing around that last turn there. And Joe Lawrence is in the pits. So I think he's had a huge moment somewhere. So he's come right out of it in the Mercedes. You can see him. And here we see Darren Chung just absolutely, completely missing his braking point. Then doing a huge donut. Almost hitting the wall, doing another grass donut, and finally gets the car going. Joe's in the pits, unfortunately. He is. So Joe Lawrence not having a good time of it this evening. Steve Legale is still charging behind Stephen Kenwood. Stephen Kenwood running a little deep there. And this is giving Steve Legale a huge chance. Oh, they're side by side here as they come up to McLean's. Oh, Steve didn't carry on with the momentum. He's lifted and braked and pulled out of that one. But there was a great opportunity right there. Gonna have a look at the other dice happening, and it is Miranda right behind David Yu. JP Miranda putting David under a whole lot of pressure right now, and that's causing David to watch his mirrors instead of racing his racing line. Give you some lap times as comparative lap times. Andy Lawrence up ahead. His last lap of 141.6. Steve Legale we watching earlier doing 141.9 his last lap. Stephen Kenwood 142. JP Miranda here 143.6 and David Yu 143.7. So these guys dicing are taking away from their outright pace, but it's good dicing nonetheless. leaders start his last lap. So Andy Lawrence is on it. Here he is, and this lap he's probably going to hammer it out. Darren Ching, I can hear him. He's wailing around here in last place in the Audi, but he's just having a whole lot of fun out there. Yeah, Andy Lawrence is now, this will be his quickest lap. He's just going to drive away from the guys behind him. Steve DeGale still chasing after Stephen Kenwood's Maserati. Rain is a lot less than it was earlier. Inch perfect through that chicane for Andy Lawrence. Indeed, you can see, oh, the Audi there is getting right out of the way, is Darren Chung. Andy Lawrence comes around Goddard's for the last time. He takes a convincing 2-race win here in the Ginetta. Behind him,
The leader has finished the race.
oh, Mr. Stephen Kenwood ran a little deep, but Steve Legale wasn't close enough to take advantage, and they come over for second and third, reverse to how they finished in the first round. Alex Volmer in his Cayman Porsche comes up for the last time, and he's in fourth place. And here's Elizabeth almost running very wide through the last turn and letting the BMWs almost come by her. So Elizabeth takes a nice fifth. David Yu gets a sixth ahead of JP Miranda in seventh place with Matthew Hudson. Here he comes in his Aston. He's going to take a nice eighth place. Well done, Matthew. Ingemar Peterson. Has he run out of fuel? No, he hasn't. Car's still going. Nothing happened. Pete Stepani's coming through, and Pete Stepani gets the pass done. He comes through in ninth. What is going on here? These two gentlemen are just... I think the Porsche's run out of fuel. And... the Mercedes-Benz is trying to push him. So Mr. Lawrence is trying to push. I don't know. Maybe not. I might be mistaken. Because the Porsche is still moving all on his own. I think they're just playing dodgems right now, to be honest. But there we go. Oh yes. These guys are definitely trying to kill each other's cars right now. Wow. And there we have it. So all done and dusted. Andy Lawrence takes a convincing 1-2 in both rounds. So well done. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed that. Again, Pierre Stone, thanks for joining, sir. I was waiting for you to come and race. But maybe next time. So thanks for joining, Pierre. And that's it from me. I'm going to end the stream off, and yeah, I'll be doing the stream again next week, Wednesday, for the GT3, GT4 run. So hopefully we won't have any internet problems, but that's it from Club 50 here at a very wet Donnington Park. Have a great weekend, everyone. Cheers.